And let's get to 24-hour News 8's Sarah Hurwitz now to break down the initial Craigslist exchange between the couple and Ostrike. Sarah?
Well, the couple just needed money, a desperate plea for cash to pay for gas, as Brooke Sloum said that things were in a tight spot financially, but the conversation quickly spiraled into a transaction for sex.
On the night of July 12th, two young people left their home in Grand Rapids, Michigan, believing they were heading toward help. Brooke Sloum was 18 years old and 8 months pregnant. Her boyfriend, Charles Oppenir, was 25. They were struggling, the kind of struggling that doesn't leave you with many options. No steady income, no safety net, just a baby coming fast and a clock ticking faster. So they did what millions of people do every single day. They went online. They posted on Craigslist asking for donations, asking for any kind of paid work. Anything to keep them afloat long enough to welcome their daughter into the world. They named her before she even arrived, Audrey Lynn. That name tells you everything you need to know about Brooke. Despite everything she had been through, the bullying that chipped away at her confidence for years, her parents' divorce, the instability that had become the background noise of her life, she was already a mother in her heart. She had already imagined a future, a family, a home, something stable, something whole. And Charles? He was right there beside her. They were far from perfect, but they were trying in the way that people try when the world hasn't made it easy for them. Now here's what makes this story cut even deeper. Brooke was not naive in the way people might assume. Her family had warned her. They told her about the dangers of meeting strangers online, and she heard them. She just trusted too easily, not because she was foolish, but because she was the kind of person who genuinely believed in the goodness of people. She helped the homeless even when she herself had nothing. That was who Brooke was. And that trust, that fundamental human decency, is exactly what Brady Orike counted on. Orike was 31 years old. From the outside, he looked like the last person you would ever suspect. He had a steady job at a power company. He owned his own home. He had grown up in a religious household, been homeschooled, and had gone on church missions. He was, by every surface measure, a responsible, grounded adult. He saw Brooke and Charles's post. He responded. He offered $120. He told them to meet him at a park late at night on July 12th. They went. They never came home. Before we go any further, drop a comment right now and tell us, where in the world are you watching from? And if you've never subscribed to True Crime Tower, now is the time. Hit that subscribe button, because this case is one that will stay with you long after this video ends. Every like and share helps more people find stories that deserve to be told.
And let's get to 24-hour News 8's Sarah Hurwitz now to break down the initial Craigslist exchange between the couple and Ostrike. Sarah?
Well, the couple just needed money, a desperate plea for cash to pay for gas, as Brooke Sloum said that things were in a tight spot financially, but the conversation quickly spiraled into a transaction for sex. Now, here's that post that Sloum made on Craigslist on July 2nd, 2014. Quote, "I need $50 by 3:30 p.m. today. I can pay you back later tonight, but I need gas and some mess quick. Now, everyone has bronchitis at my house, and I did not want to get sick. I'm 8 months pregnant, and my lungs are all squished as is. If you could help me out, me and my daughter will greatly appreciate it." Now, 10 days later, Brady Orike replies under the name Mike's Hard, quote, "I can host. What are you thinking? I'm 25. And 10 minutes later, Slocum replies, well, we're looking for donations if possible, kind of in a tight spot, and we have a baby on the way. As far as the fund goes, though, there won't be any mail." Now, Ostrike later replies that he can swing $120, offers to give the couple a ride. But Slocum replies, quote, "No, we can travel, just can't host is all. When and where would you like to meet up?" Ostrike says that "I'd like to blank outside in a park around 11:30. That okay?" Slocum is hesitant about meeting at the park. She says, I don't know. I don't want to get in trouble for indecent exposure or anything. I can't go to jail being 8 months pregnant. But Ostrike reassures her. It's cop-free, it's a park, but behind it are a lot of woods and no cops at all. They later agree to meet at midnight. It's unclear from the documents whether that was the same park that police later found Charles Oppenir's decapitated body. And the Craigslist transcripts provide a glimpse into how this all unfolded, but Slocum's family says that it is not the whole story. They say that she was sex trafficked, and they've set up a foundation, Brooke's Angels, to help other troubled teens. In studio control, Sarah Hurwitz, 24-Hour News 8.
Tragedy of the worst kind.
The Craigslist murders, a pregnant mother, her boyfriend, her unborn child, all dead. It's a mystery that's been unfolding in the city of Wyoming over the past several days. Police identify the two victims as Charlie Opener and Brooke Sloum, and a baby they plan to name Audie. Today, police named the man responsible for their deaths, Brady Orike. Police say that he met the couple after being connected through Craigslist. Police got involved in the case when Charlie's body was found in a park. That was on Wednesday. The next day, Brooke was reported missing and police started closing in on the suspect. It all ended late last night after the suspect led police on a chase and crashed near US 131 in Burton. He took his own life. Brooke's body was found in the trunk of the car. We do have a team of reporters working to learn more about this bizarre murder mystery. And we start with 24-Hour News 8's Ken Kolker live in Wyoming, where police are still searching the suspect's home tonight. Ken?
Yeah, we're on Porter Street near Taft Avenue. In an unusual move, Wyoming police have actually shut down Taft Avenue, allowing only residents to drive in and out as they continue to search the suspect's home about a half a block down.
All these different stories accusing him of stuff.
A longtime friend tells us he would never have pegged Brady Orike for a killer. Says he was shocked when friends told him this morning.
I'm like, no, this is my best friend. I don't know what you're talking about.
Police today were not revealing much about Orike's background. We checked his records and found only a prior larceny case more than 10 years ago in Granville.
We've had contacts with him. I'm not going to elaborate right now, but we have had contacts, not in a criminal nature.
Orike worked as an electrical lineman for a Reed City-based company, but company officials refused to comment.
He climbs those wires there and the poles, puts them up, hooks the wires together, makes sure all your homes have power.
He was occasionally on Facebook and had a Facebook alias named Jote Amos. He also posted a profile on Dungeons and Dragons and, according to his friend, collected weapons.
Go down to the range and shoot himself and build them and just like the way they look and cool stuff like that.
Police say they seized more than one assault-type rifle from his home. His friend, who met him years ago at a church in Byron Center, says he had never heard of the victims until now.
I want to know what happened. I hope this gets figured out. As soon as I get home, I'm going to be doing a lot of research and figuring out what the hell is going on.
Now, we just spoke to the suspect's sister just a short time ago, now who said her brother had a quote-unquote beautiful side, that he actually had helped build churches down in Haiti. Now, see, she says that he had recently met a woman through an online dating service and that woman had actually stolen money from him. She wonders if he somehow snapped. We hope to hear more from her tonight at 6. Live in Wyoming, Ken Kolker, 24-Hour News 8.
Such an upsetting case. Thanks, Ken. Our team coverage continues tonight with 24-Hour News 8's Danny Carlson. She's been digging into the police investigation all day and is live in Wyoming with what she's discovered. Danny?
Well, Marley, and a big part of this investigation, as we've been telling you, is that Craigslist connection. So much so that the Wyoming Department of Public Safety just about 10 minutes ago released a statement addressing those social media rumors that are out there. It reads in part, quote, "We are concerned that information being posted could jeopardize our investigation." Now, today we uncovered several ads online that appeared to match the couple, 18-year-old Brooke Sloum and 25-year-old Charlie Opener. Wyoming Public Safety has said that they confiscated Slocum's computer and have found conversations that led police to the suspect, Brady Orike. Those conversations started on Craigslist.
We want to tell people to be extremely careful about who they speak with on these internet sites. Anybody can be anybody behind a computer screen.
Now, I did attempt to speak with both families of both of the victims today. Neither of them wanted to speak with us on camera, but Slocum's father did say over the phone that he appreciates all the prayers, all the support that they have gotten from the community. He also says that he feels for missing mom Jessica Herringa's family because he says at least his family has closure while her family does not. Live in Wyoming this evening, Danny Carlson, 24-Hour News 8.
Danny, thank you. This is a story that has been unfolding for nearly a week now. According to police, Charles Opener and Brooke Sloum were last seen Saturday night leaving their apartment in Grand Rapids. On Wednesday, Opener's body was found in a wooded area near Gazan Parkway in Wyoming. And then yesterday, police were considering Sloum as a missing person. Last night, the situation started unraveling as officers requested a warrant to search Brady Orike's home. While they were waiting for the warrant, Orike got into his car and he left the house. Police tried pulling him over and he briefly stopped before taking off again. He ended up crashing on the Burton Street Bridge over US 131 overpass. Police say that after the crash, Orike shot and killed himself. When police searched his car, they found Slocum's body in the trunk. We do have more information about today's developments. Just go to woodtv.com.
I'm Brian Sterling.
And I'm Susan Shaw. First up at 6 o'clock, Wyoming police are talking to our Target 8 investigators about the horrific Craigslist murders.
We have fought for 2 years to get the full police report, trying to get some important answers, including, was there anything that Wyoming police could have done to save Brooke Sloum and her unborn baby? And why did it take police more than 4 hours waiting outside of Brady Orike's home before he left with her body in the trunk of his car?
Target 8 investigator Ken Kolker went through videos, photographs, and hundreds of pages of reports and sat down today with the Wyoming police chief. Ken?
Yeah, Brian and Sue, the police chief says he and his officers have gone over this case over and over again and have always reached the same conclusion. They did everything they could.
There's only one person responsible for Brooke Slocum's death and her baby's death, and that's Brady Orike. Period.
The chief says there's no way they could have known that Brooke Sloum, 8 months pregnant, had been held and abused for 5 days in Orike's home in Wyoming, or that she was still there on July 17th, 2014, when police started watching his home, though they believe she was likely dead by then.
Had we known that she was in here, we'd have gone through that door in a heartbeat.
Target 8 filed a Freedom of Information Act request for the reports more than 2 years ago, hoping they would answer some of the unanswered questions. The records provide a timeline that really started the day before, when police discovered Charles Oppenhier's decapitated body in Gazan Park.
It's a full court press in the very beginning. We started out with a body. We knew no circumstances, nothing about the person that was involved.
Police quickly learned that Oppenhier and Slocum had sold sex through Craigslist, leading to a search warrant for Craigslist records.
To get that information, we have to seek search warrants for that. So again, you've got time involvement, getting people.
Computer searches then led them to a customer, email addresses, a fake Facebook name, then finally to Brady Orike.
Once we have that, that's not the end of it. Now we've got to identify where he's at.
Records show that by 4:45 that afternoon, the day after Oppenhier's body was found, they had identified Orike as a suspect. By 5 o'clock that afternoon, 2 Wyoming officers in plain clothes and an unmarked car had parked just to the north of Orike's home to keep an eye on it. But since they didn't know whether Brooke Sloum was inside, there was nothing they could do without a search warrant. By 6:15, the department called for its tactical team for a high-risk search warrant at the home on Taft. And by 7, a ping on his cell phone showed he was indeed there. It's not clear when police started working on a search warrant for Orike's home, one of several warrants in the works.
It's not like television. It doesn't take place in 45 minutes. The reality of it is we have to be very detailed, because if we don't, what we gain in that search warrant we can lose in court.
They often take more than 2 hours, he says, needing approval by a prosecutor, then a judge.
If the suggestion or implication is that there was a delay in getting that, I'd say no, absolutely not.
Is that frustrating? I mean, are there officers at the scene saying, you know, we've been here since 5, it's 9:15, and there he goes, and we were waiting for a search warrant? Is there any of that frustration?
I can't say there's frustration. I think we've worked in the process so long that we expect those delays. We want to make it right the first time. We don't get a second shot at this.
At 9:15, the tactical team was at the police department preparing for the raid as an officer waited for the judge to sign the warrant. Before that could happen, Orike drove away, leading to a chase, his suicide, and the discovery of Slocum's body in a suitcase in the trunk of his car. Police believe he strangled her shortly after he stopped videotaping her around 1 that day.
It gets very emotional. That's why I am very sensitive to the suggestions that maybe a delay might have caused something here. You weren't there, standing over that suitcase, looking at that young girl who's now dead, and knowing that she had an 8-month-old baby that is now dead, who had no choice in this matter. That stays with you. That haunts you.
Now tonight at 7 on 8, more from our one-on-one with the chief, including the search for Charles Oppenhier's head, the impact on his officers, and why he refuses to dwell on the killer.
It absolutely says something when law enforcement getting emotional about, just it gives you an idea how grisly this crime is happening in our own community.
And they say they're still been connected to both of those families of the victims. And, you know, it's been tough on.
And that's who we should remember, that's for sure.
Yes.
Thank you, Ken.
Spoke a short time ago with Brady Orike's sister off camera, who said her brother had a quote-unquote beautiful side. She described him as a good uncle to her children and said he had helped build churches in Haiti. She also says he had been trying to meet women through online dating and that a woman he had recently met had stolen from him. She wonders if he somehow snapped. A longtime friend also told us he can't believe his friend would kill.
I know all of this that's going on. It's like, from the front it looks bad, but there's always more behind it, so I hope it all gets exposed.
They were friends who met through a church in Byron Center, and Oostenrijk had recently stood up at his wedding.
Very straightforward, blunt type of guy, but still very kind at heart.
Police today weren't saying much about Oostenrijk's background. We found only a misdemeanor larceny case from more than 10 years ago in Granville.
It was not his original idea. This is not the kind of person I've known him to be.
Brady was the kind of guy that just wanted to kill people, but at the same time, I think he just kind of wanted to kill people.
23-year-old Brittany Zamitis, who says she regularly hung out with Brady Oostenrijk, signed her name on a wall in his basement, illuminated by a black light, next to the names of other friends who had visited.
And it's not the hellish environment everyone's making it out to be. Oh my gosh, that bugged me so much.
It's been described as a dungeon where Oostenrijk held Brooke Sloum captive for 5 days before strangling her.
The way I described his house is like a naughty drawer.
Lots of restraints, handcuffs, sex toys, she says.
But his whole house was like that. Not to mention, in like one corner of his house, you'd have that. The other corner, you'd have guns. The other corner, you'd have knives. And the other corner, you'd have nerdy stuff.
She described him as a good friend who spent time with her, watching movies, playing video games, always bought dinner, even gave her $1,000 on her 22nd birthday.
He was probably one of the most generous friends I've had.
She said he had grown darker since his fiancée broke up with him about a year ago, but told her he was going through therapy to get help. But he was at his darkest when she last saw him, she says, at a bar downtown about a month ago.
He said he wished he can go back in time to an era in time where he can just kill people with his bare hands. And yeah, he mentioned going back to Viking periods. And
he also talked about killing himself.
I was surprised he didn't kill himself a while ago, because after I met with him, he said, I'm going to kill myself tomorrow at this time. He was very specific and straightforward about it.
She called him the next day, but he didn't answer.
So I was just like, well, I guess he killed himself.
When Charles Oppenier's body was discovered in the woods near Glacier Park several days after July 12th, investigators were not prepared for what they found. He had been decapitated. His car was abandoned nearby, left there like he had simply parked and walked away. Except Charles had not walked anywhere. He had been murdered in one of the most brutal ways imaginable, and then discarded in those woods like he was nothing. Brooke's fate came to light shortly after, under circumstances just as devastating. When police finally caught up with Brady Orike on July 16th, he led them on a chase that ended when he crashed his vehicle and died by suicide. And when officers searched that car, they found Brooke in the trunk. She had been strangled, 8 months pregnant, dreaming of Audrey Lynn. Gone. But the full depth of what Brady Orike was, what he had been hiding in plain sight for years, only became clear when police searched his home. What they found inside that house was not the home of a church-going, employed, property-owning man. It was something else entirely. Over 400 items were recovered, more than 40 firearms, ammunition, restraints, chains, medieval weapons, bloody clothing, adult diapers, and then the videos. Footage from his own basement showed Brooke caged and tortured before her death. There were baby dolls hanging with nooses around their necks. The details that emerged from that home search painted the portrait of a man whose entire public life had been performance, a carefully constructed front design to keep anyone from looking too closely at what was behind the door. And here's the part of the story that is almost impossible to sit with. Brady Orike had done this before. Weeks before Brooke and Charles responded to his Craigslist offer, he had lured another woman from the same platform and held her captive in that basement as a so-called sex slave. She survived. She got out, and Brady Orike faced no charges. No charges, which means that when Brooke and Charles saw his message and decided to trust him, the system had already had its chance to stop him. And it didn't. That is not a footnote in this story. That is the center of it. I want to pause here and ask you directly, do you believe the system failed Brooke and Charles? Leave your thoughts in the comments. This is exactly the kind of conversation that needs to happen. Don't just watch Engage. Your voice matters on stories like this one. Police traced Orike back through a fake Facebook account he had created under the name Joe Amos. The account he used to communicate with his victims through email. The FBI assisted in the investigation, and the evidence recovered from his home was overwhelming. But Orike was already dead. There would be no trial, no testimony, no moment in a courtroom where Brooke and Charles would get justice in the traditional sense. And then, 5 years later, in 2019, a farmer made a discovery that added one final, haunting chapter to this case. Charles's skull was found 17 miles away from where the rest of his remains had been recovered. A gunshot wound was confirmed. Dental records made the identification. It closed a question that had remained open for 5 years, but it also raised new ones. How did it end up there? What else happened that night that we still don't fully know? There are no clean endings in cases like this. Just fragments that slowly come together, and grief that never fully goes away. Brooke's father could have responded to all of this with rage, with bitterness, with a hatred that no one would have blamed him for. Instead, he forgave Brady Orike. He said he chose to focus on love and kindness. And from that place, Brooke's family built a foundation called Brooke's Angels, dedicated to supporting troubled youth, taking the worst moment of their lives and turning it outward, toward others, toward the next generation. That is Brooke's legacy, not just a victim's name on a case file, but a foundation that carries her spirit forward, the same spirit that moved her to help homeless strangers when she herself had nothing. This case forces us to confront something deeply uncomfortable. Predators do not announce themselves. They do not look the part. They have jobs and homes and church attendance records. They look like neighbors. They look like helpful strangers on the internet. And the systems we trust to protect us, the legal systems, the reporting mechanisms do not always work the way they should. A woman survived Brady Orike's basement and reported what happened. And still, Brooke and Charles paid the price for a failure that was never theirs to bear. Brooke Sloum was 18 years old. She was 8 months pregnant with a daughter she had already named and already loved. She was kind in a world that had not always been kind to her, and she deserved to come home that night. So did Charles. So did Auditory Lynn. If the story moved you, share it. Share it so that Brooke and Charles are not forgotten. Share it so that more people understand what could be hidden behind a friendly message and a modest offer. Hit the like button. Subscribe to True Crime Tower if you haven't already, and leave a comment telling us what part of this case hit you hardest. We cover the cases that demand to be heard. And we're not done. The next case is coming, and you won't want to miss it.